Good evening, good evening, good evening. Wait. Technical through if issues. Let me get myself out of my own ear. Great. The worst part of sometimes is hearing yourself echo in your own ear, and that's usually no fun. And so I had to make sure I got that out of my way. Let's make sure that everything is set right, and so we okay. Is that yeah? I'm hoping. Glad to see y'all. Glad to see y'all. Glad to see y'all. Welcome to the African Speaks. Yes, this is later than normal. Later than normal. Now, in African, in African cosmology, the way they say things happen when they're supposed to happen. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. In European culture, we call that CPT time, right? Color people time. African culture doesn't exist because they said the universe functions in a particular way and things will happen at it the moment that it was supposed to occur. So I had things fall apart, and this is a very, very important day. And so, with this being an important day, I had to develop the concept in which I was going to speak. And as it came about, man, I'm rushing after work, and things just clashed. And I said, wait a minute, maybe I'm not supposed to go on until 8. And I said, if I go on until 8, then that's okay. Why? Because I'm gonna still do what I'm called to do, regardless what happens. And understanding, and I said, well, let's see what this 8 o'clock time feels like. Ain't that something? Let's see what it feels like, and then so we'll go from there, right? So I'm glad to be here, and I hope you glad to be here. Again, because we're focused on the rise of the African. This is what World of Akibaland. This is what the African speaks. This is what Afro Akibaland African spirituality is about. It's about what AfriStream is about. It's what Black African history and African spirituality class on Saturday. This is what it's all about. The rise of the African, a social media Pan African movement where we're bringing Black people together under one umbrella to make this move. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life until I can find a torch to pass it on. World of Akibaland just became a nonprofit. We'll start advertising that on the African Speaks as well, so we can move it on out. But we are glad you're here. Why? Because this has been the day that I've been waiting for. And I sat down and said, I didn't even know this day was going to appear on the African Speaks. When I said be aware of 22222, because this is a rare season, a rare moment, we talked about what the number 22 was. 22 as being a master number. And I wish I had prepared graphics for that. 22 being a master number, being something that is focused on God giving you a double portion of power, wisdom, understanding. It's about harmony, balance. It's about the time, and it's the moment you see 22 on recurrently, it's that sign that the ancestors and God and the universe is on your side. And I said, the more people I can bring this awareness to, the more we can have a scenario where people are actually reaching forward that process, reaching forward, right? It promotes, the 22 promotes diplomacy, interaction, communication, harmony, balance, and power. It encourages you to gain your sense of balance and inner harmony. And it's the moment where the creator is giving you more energy than anything else. This is a powerful day. And I said, if I can get you to focus on the whole year, that's one thing, but this day, and so we still got time to prayer, meditate, and everything. I said, so I wanted to break this down, right? I wanted to break this thing down right here, this 22. How do you access black power or accessing black power? And you say, ooh, black power. It's not only black power, it's black power. There was always a conversation, and this is because, and we'll get there. We have the conversation in my African spirituality circles that black people are not using the greatest tool that they have. They're not using the greatest instrument that they have, which is the power of who we are. Black power that's inside of us. It's our spirituality. And we have become so disconnected from it that it becomes null and void. It's almost null and void. And look at my shirt slowly disappearing via the green screen. I guess this color is I don't know. It is what it is, right? So anyway, and so I wanted to talk about four things that we could do to access more black power. And it's not necessarily black power in reference to political, but it's that black power that's in us that's more spiritual that will carry us even further. We need that political black power, that energy that where we work together as a people. Now, working together as a people, we still generate even more black power. That melanin power, that 666 power, that carbon power. How do you get to that point? Because we said we need to get to a point where we, just the rise of the we're earning our oxygen. And so because we're living in a different generation, a different focus now, back during the times of slavery, they would dip off to the bush. They would dip off to the bush and earn their oxygen. They would sit down and call on powers and infinite realities that was that was given. It was inherited from generation to generation to generation, and it was talked about from old griots and people who could remember. And so now we as a people are getting into that place where we're beginning to remember who we are. So that accessing black power on 2/22/22. Now I had some conversations with certain individuals that would try to derail you, break me up. And I sat down and said, there's something else out here. There's another energy trying to derail me to see if I can get off focus. Why? Because if I can get more people focusing on black power, that spiritual power, accessing that, and breaking some steps down and things that we could do, right? Doing that. And I said, wow, we could actually get back to a deeper reality. Where I'm not just calling you queen because I'm calling you queen and trying to, make you feel better. I'm calling you queen because it's an anointing that you walk under. I'm calling you queen because or we getting called king is because it's the anointing that we walk under. I look at a sister, grand rising, because it's not about saying, oh, I'm not mourning. Mourning and mourning are spelled different, right? But you're talking about a grand rising, a great awareness of the God in you. So when I say the black youth rising, you understand that this is about the manifestation of accessing black power. That's that energy within, and nobody else can do it but us, as being descendants from African culture and Africans in general. No one can do this, not the way we do, because it's different for us. It's different for us. So when you're sitting down saying 2/22/22, right? And so if we sit down and put a 0 to 22 and a 20, you'll see more combination of twos, right? But we're gonna say we got a double portion of twos of 22, which is 22/22, but 2/22. I said, so now if we already for the whole year getting a double portion of God's power with the 22 year, the 22nd year, now we got 22/22. That'll happen every month. But that 2/22, I gotta look up. I didn't take a chance to get a chance to look up two. But it's 02/22/20/22, and you can use a two from the other two and just see the twos. It's a Tuesday, and that's been going around Tuesday. But it means something, man. And we still have time. It's only 8 p.m. for me to get you to understand what you need to be doing on this day when you're speaking. So let's get into the process of actually moving toward that experience where we are true kings and we are true queens, and we are majestic, and we're everything that God has called us to be on this day. One love, Mike Ben. I see you. We got to speak. And we need to get to to that point where we understand that power. So let's begin with step one. In step one, and this conversation is a combination of all the classes that we teach here, all the classes from the African, which is a Keebaland Inspirational Sunday at noon, is tonight because the other classes, and then we have Thursday night, which is Afro Stream, and then we have African history and African spirituality on Saturday. This is a combination in this conversation. You're going to get all of that because you need all of that to get to the point where you're experiencing Black power. Something that once you access it, the only person that can turn it away is not even you. No one can. Because the minute you turn yourself into the creator and the God and the awareness of the true power in you, you won't let it go. I told someone, I said, when a Black man finds his identity in God, his real identity, not the identity connected to a European or Eurocentric mindset, but his real identity in God, he'll never turn back. He'll never walk away. And he will only look for that in other people and try to generate the environment. And if he can't find it, he'll manifest it in other people, helping other people seeing that Black power within them. And so the first thing that we have to focus on is surrendering to something greater. Now, I'm not dealing with Jesus on this one. I'm not dealing with Muhammad on this one. I'm not dealing with Buddha on this one. I'm dealing with the fact that there is one creator. One creator. If you have a system that is polytheistic or monotheistic or animism, that's and those are those terms used in African spirituality class. You got to get there. You got to get there. But you got to surrender to something greater than yourself. When you look at the simplicity of the universe and how it was created, you realize that there is a master's mind at work. Not a mastermind, but a master's mind. Something that controls or that we all give ourselves to. Period. That's why when we're talking that there's a difference between civil rights and human rights, because human rights are dealing with the being that understands who they are in the universe. That's the difference between Malcolm and Martin. That's the clash. Martin fought for civil rights, a contract with your government. If you understand the difference between human rights and civil rights, Akiba Land Inspirational Sunday. And then Malcolm focused on human rights. We're supposed to be a people of God as Black people. And then we were supposed to show everybody else. Now, if everybody else want to live barbaric, that's their choice. But we understand the universe. We live in a spiritual universe where, wait, and I got this. Everything is interconnected. If you talk about the energy field within the universe, there is everything is interconnected. There's line going across, line going across, line going across, line going across, line. There is no space voided of the creator. Everything. You have to be able to look through everything through God's eyes. Everything is of God. It's not just a spiritual sense. It is everything. Your clothes is of God because of the molecules in your clothes. Every piece of fabric, from solid to gas to liquid to a hard mass. Man, y'all should be in Akiba Land Inspirational Sunday. Everything has an energy in it that moves, that vibrates, that atom. It vibrates. That's the energy of the creator. It's in everything. So everything is God. That's why you said he's everywhere. Why? Because there's nothing void of it. Nothing void of that energy that moves, keeps that atom moving. That atom that shakes. There's nothing in void of it. You have to learn how that you're not the greatest thing on the universe. You're just not. We have dominion in this region. But if you want to access greater power, you got to know that there's something other than you that you have to surrender to. And you feel it calling you at sometimes. You feel it pulling you at sometimes. And then how do I access that? Easy. Know that it's not you. When I sit down and I have low energy and something's happening, I pause. Because I said, it's not the fact that I don't have any. And I had a conversation with someone the other day about energy level and being depleted. Well, I'm almost never depleted. Now I can get I guess worn, right? I'm trying to find the word. I can get worn or spent. There we go. Because I can pour out. In these spaces right here, I pour. I pour out. I'm pouring out. Whatever comes in me naturally, it just comes out naturally. So it's going to be pouring into me and it's pouring out. And after which, of me having opened myself to that level of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and energy, I feel spent. And sometimes it's beautiful to have other spiritual individuals and beings around you who can sit down and see that, you spending this energy, and now how can they pour into you so that you can continue pouring, because there's no situation where you can't stop, because the minute that you surrender to something greater, you can't slow that person down. That person has to be allowed to slow down through what is dictating their movements. African spirituality, they said everything is God. So everything that we do is in worship to God. And that's what you're doing. And so in that space, you got to get to the point where it's a battle of verses. It's a battle of verses. It's your belief versus your knowing. Africans know that this is a spiritual universe. In African spirituality, they know that there's nothing void from the Creator. How we use that energy is on us, but it's a versus, it's a battle. What do you know about the God around you, the God that created you, the energy that's in you? What do you know? When you feel the wind, do you realize that's you too? That is you. Why? Because it's a manifestation of God the same way you are. You're a manifestation of God. That was when Jesus, the Black Messiah, said, I and the Father are one. There's no difference. Why? Because I am of the energy that He is. She is. The Mother Creator. That's Mother, Father God. Father, Mother God. It's your verses that you got to get to the point where it's knowing what you believe versus knowing what you know. My first experience in going to uh, African spirituality, a diviner, he laughed. He said, "You function in the knowing, and you've been there almost your whole life." Yeah, there are things about spirituality that no one had to teach me that just came natural, because we come out of the womb vibrating, and as long as we cultivate that connection that kids have with the Creator, they'll never separate. Never separate. And they will exist in the knowing. When you know something, 1 + 1 = 2, you stand on it. You stand on it. I know, and my man Mike is watching, and then we do comedy together. And I remember a question where it went around the set. Well, why are you here? And people, they dreams, and they said, Boulevard, why are you so good? And that's my stage name. I said, well, I live in my knowing. I'm not battling in the verses, my faith versus my belief, or my, I know my belief versus my knowing. I know it's more than belief. It's more than faith. It's a knowing. It's solid. My heart beats. That's solid. We live in a spiritual universe. That's solid. Everything is God. Solid. I just have to open my awareness to a greater understanding, to that understanding, that verse, that battle between the spirit and the flesh, believing and knowing. And so they said, how are you so good at what you do? And I responded with another question. How are you not? Why? Because I know who God is. And if I'm in this situation and circumstance, if I surrender to the Creator, I'm not dealing with the verses. I know that I can become anything I need to succeed. I just had a conversation with a young man that I mentored years ago, and he remember, and I don't know if he remembered the conversation I had when he was 12. He's in his 20s now, pushing 30. He's doing great things for the community. And I said, "Do you remember when you was young and you said, Jay, I saw you do everything. There's nothing that you can't do, but there's one thing I've never seen you do." I was like, "What's that?" He said, "Play an instrument." And I'm gonna learn how to play everything. If you can't, since you can't play, there must be something good the brother plays. And he's finding his place in life behind the knowing that that's part of his talent. So what is that? So that surrendering. You have surrendering to something greater. When you look at the things in the world, do you see God? Do you see the Creator? And then you can sit down and say the Father, you can say the Mother, you can say the entity, the Spirit. Do you see God in reality, in the rain, in the wind, in the water? How much, man, I could do a whole sermon about the power of water on this earth and what it can do for you spiritually. What? Can you see God? And if you can you surrender to the understanding that it's not about you? It's about God expressing himself, itself through you with God. Every time you come in contact with somebody, that's God coming in contact with God. That's how we were able to build these empires of great success in our antiquity as a people, building the first major civilizations. Y'all come to African history class this week. I'm gonna show you something about the United States and how much the United States give praise to African culture and spirituality and empires. Woo! I'm gonna show you some things, so be there. But what do you see? Can you see God in the image? Can you see God in this image? Can you see God in anything that I produce? Can you see life? You have to surrender something greater than yourself. And it don't matter how you define it. Some people don't want to say church, spiritual. Don't matter. It's all the same thing. Church is spiritual. People don't want to say religion. It don't matter. Religion is the same thing as spirituality. This is a religious universe. It's not just a spiritual, it's both. There's no definition that's greater than the other. Because if that's the case, then there's one word who can define God and no word can. It's everything. So then once you realize that we are in a spiritual and religious universe where everything is interconnected, there's nothing separate from the experience of God, and you can surrender to it. The next thing is learning. Learning how to communicate with the entities that exist in that spiritual realm. What? Communicating with your ancestors and other spirits. What? For those who are Christians and you might be battling what I'm saying. Jesus said, pray in my name and I will take it to the Father. Meaning that I'm an intercedent. Look up that word. Knowing how that this is a spiritual universe where, and in African spirituality, they say, and because we're talking about accessing black power. And it's black spiritual power that we're focused on. Black spiritual power. You got to learn how to communicate with your ancestors because you can't get there without it. You can't. It's a combination. It's a connection. It's a chain. Why? Because not acknowledging that we have spiritual entities that exist between us and the Creator that we can utilize, because sometimes your voice can't make it to the Creator. Wow. So knowing how to communicate with Big Mama. And then think about it. It's not just the ancestors that you know. We go back tens of thousands of years. It's the ancestors that you ain't never seen before. Have you ever thought about calling on the most powerful African spirit in your bloodline? Have you ever thought about what would that be? And only calling on the warriors. Then when you need help, only calling on the healers. When you need something and you need to see vision and have a sight of where you need to go and what God called you to do, only calling on the seers, the ones who had vision. Learn how to use the power that we were given. Christianity is not separate from this experience. Islam is not separate from this experience. Buddha isn't. Hindu isn't. It's all interconnected. And so go through those processes. Grandmama says she had an altar. I had a prayer closet. A prayer closet. What do you think an altar is? It's just not in your closet. And I in my early 20s, I couldn't have a house without an altar. And it was before I understood what African spirituality was. I just said, I need a place in my house that when I walk through it, it reminds me that my place in space and me, I'm sacred. Everything about this is sacred. And slowly I got into understanding of what African spirituality was. Slowly I got into it. But I always had, my early 20s, I always had an altar in my home. And then all of a sudden the altar developed into an ancestral altar. And then I started studying the skills and, the stones and everything else, candles and, being able to speak. And then, and it's, look, I can pray to God at my altar. And I can thank my ancestors in my altar. I'm not worshiping ancestors. We're communicating, saying, yo, get this prayer to God on my behalf. I need this to happen. The same way you believe that we have angels, because they say in Christian, you got an angel, guardian angels. We all talk about it. What is that? That's nothing more than your ancestors. So learn how to talk to them. Learn how to interact with them. Learn how to feel them in the room when they're with you. That's deeply important. The minute that you connect, so you want to access your black power, there are processes. And so when you realize that you are connecting the physical realm with the spirit, well, you're not connecting it, it's already connected. You just got to clear your awareness of it. You got to get your awareness right. That this is a unified energy field in which we have an ability to communicate. The same way you saying prayers to God is the same way you saying prayers or you speaking to your ancestors. Yo, man, I'm telling you, yo, ma, I be like that in the house. I hear music. Well, I'm playing this music. My father here. Play that, father, light the candle. Yo, appreciate you coming through. I need a favor. Get this done for me and help me get this done. And if you can't, go take it to God or find an ancestor that can do it on my behalf. But I need something done. My daughter sit down and teaching black youth young. One daddy, woo! I requested this from the ancestors and they took it to the creator and pow! Accessing that power. And it's more than visualization. It's more than, I want to visualize something. We're going to get into that, right? But if you feel like you don't know how, please seek a diviner, seek a minister, seek a spiritualist. We are out here. Heard what I said? We are out here and we can intercede on your behalf. It's what we are. It's what we do. It's what we trained for. I didn't know I was doing it until I realized I was doing it. Find somebody who can sit down and help you learn how to communicate with your ancestors. You need to be a part of African spirituality class. But you got to understand that this is the world and the universe which we live in. And no other people had this before us. This is what we birthed and brought to the world. And that's why they had to change certain religious processes because of who we are when we access this power. So find someone who can sit there with you, talk with you, speak with you, pray with you. Where two or more gather. Get somebody who sees it eye to eye. But you got to communicate with your ancestors. You have to. They said in the Bible, Jesus was transposing. He was talking to Moses and Elijah. All right. Now, I always said, if Jesus was God, why he had to call Moses and Elijah and get advice? You feel me? He was accessing the power of the Creator. And he needed some instructions from his brothers. So he called his ancestors and they were talking. Think about it. Let that marinate on your brain. Go find the scripture. But you got to get somebody to be able to speak for you if you can't speak for yourself. I know people who sit down and call me and says, hey, I need help. I need prayer. I'm like, yo, what's up? And they tell me what it is. And I say, who's your favorite family member that transitioned over? Who do you have a real relationship with? And they tell me their name. And I say, what's your favorite color? I get the color and I go in and I intercede on their behalf, speaking to the person that loves them the most. And say, I need you to do something on behalf of your nephew or your aunt or your cousin or your brother or your sister. I need you to take this to God Because as he or she prays to the Creator, we would like for you to also go on behalf and beseech the Creator on behalf of your relative. If you can't do it, find somebody who can. Because we're accessing Black power, because we're trying to have that experience that we had on this earth years ago. Because we do really want to earn our oxygen. Because we are focusing on the rise of the African. And today is 2/22/22. We're accessing Black power. And so the next thing that you have to do when you accessing Black power, you got to spend time listening. You got to spend time listening. And there's one thing that I didn't put up here because it'll come. But you have to take that time. Because as much as you seek the life that you want, God might want something different. You can tell God what you want. He said, I'll give you the desires of your heart. But that is not necessarily what I want for you. So you will only never really manifest to your best self, your most powerful self, if you're doing what you feel you need to do under your own understanding. It won't help. But if you spend time listening, you can hear when someone tells you what you need to do. And then when they tell it to you, wow, you got to be able to respond. But most of the time we spend time talking to God, complaining, talking, complaining, asking. But when do we stay still enough to listen? Because things like and answers are always coming our way until you pause and hear it. You never get the answer. I never hear. I'm a part of a scenario where I always hear brothers saying, "I never hear anybody." Are you listening? Is there a block? Did you surrender? Did you surrender to the universe as being one unified being? When you sit down and you pick up, it's a USB, right? This God. Why? Because it has an atom in it. That atom has energy in it. That energy is moving back and forth. The same energy that exists in this exists in me. The same energy that exists in my ankh exists in me. The same energy that is utilizing the internet, the dots and zeros, exists in you, exists in all of us. So then at times you got to slow down and spend time to listen, because it's here sending information, ancestors sending information, God sending information, tapping into who you are. You got to spend time listening. And that's meditation, you know, and sometimes it's just sitting in silence. I know at times where uh, I can feel my ancestors and I don't want to speak. No noise. Because I can feel them and I'm hearing them. And throughout the house, I can hear them talk, murmur, and interact. Sometimes I get to see them. I ain't never told nobody that before. But you got to spend time in that slow down space. When was the last time you just sat still and said, God, I'm here? Or if you're dealing something in your family, or you're dealing with a family member that left and there's some anxiety there, and you just paused and said, I'm here to listen, not just to talk at you. You spent that time feeling the universe. You know how people say it's about to rain. No, it's not. When it rains. We are in touch with the universe when we listen to it. I remember being in New York growing up, and we was in a violent scenario. And I always tell this story. There was a party in two different areas of the town. The boring party at the school, and then the hood party where we weren't allowed to go. And my boy, me and Archie was like, "Yo, let's go to the hood party." I said, "Nah, Arch, we're going to the school party." Why? Because something I'm feeling. I'm listening to the universe. So we go to high school party. It was lame like always, you know what I mean? But then we left, and he wanted to go up the normal route we go home. I said, we can't walk down that street. Why? I said, because there's something there waiting for us. We can't go that way. We need to go this way. He said, man, that's where white people at. I said, and he said, that's long. It's going to take us hours to get home. I said, if we go down that street, we won't make it home. How you know? At that time, I didn't understand African spirituality or the antennas that I have. I said, I could feel it. I was listening for direction. And sometimes when you slow down, you'll get it. We went the other way home. And BS you not, HBO crew, Hamill's boys only, through this party. And everybody who wasn't from Hamill's, when that track hit, they put chains on the doors. Could nobody get out the gym? Every brother in the Hamill's had a 2x4, billy club, or golf club, beating people's brains out. And then they would buy the bus stop me and Archie was going to go toward. And so if you got out of the party and round to the club, they were waiting for you on the corner just so that you can go home with a scar. And Archie said the next day, how did you know? I was listening. They will guide you to the right job, right place, right scenario. I don't know how many times I can tell you. I got so many stories of me being quiet and I just listened. And I found everything I needed to find and was at a place where I needed to be. But you got to communicate with your ancestors, get them to dialogue, and don't just ask. Listen. And when they say something, I don't have this one up here. You got to act. You got to produce. And that's one of the things that I was told by the diviner that I went to see. He said, you hear the ancestors, but you got to respond when they say respond, because that's when you're going to get what you need. Because sometimes it takes a minute to align the world to exactly what you need to produce what you need to produce. So the minute you feel the word move, stand still. Even your standing still is movement, because one of the things that God always gives, you're always producing time. Even in your standing still, you're producing time. Time to listen, time to hear, time to have your ancestors act on your behalf. Did you ever get a job when you showed up at the right time, put the right stuff at the right... That's God working on your behalf and your ancestors coming together. And we have the power to be able to do that at will. Not by happenstance. We're talking about accessing Black Power, 2/22/22. So when we get off today, right, acknowledge God in everything. That's why you in prayer, that's the first thing, is acknowledging the magnificence of the Creator, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And know that you are part of that universe. You're part of that creation and that connection. You are of His essence. And when it's time for you to talk, find your diviner. He said you hear them, but you gotta move, brother. And so I started moving. Then he said you have to have an unbridled tongue, meaning that you got to speak your piece. I started speaking. Now I also got to spend time when I get quiet. That spiritual silence is a powerful place. Powerful place, because you'll have your visions. You'll have how-to. People ask me, how did you do this? What you see now. Silence. And then when I open my eyes and I come through, I realize I know more than what I know, and I know where to go to get the answers from if I don't. And I do things that I wasn't designed to do in terms of my education. God makes a way for you. Out of nowhere, your ancestors will too. And there are hundreds, and man, think about it. The hundreds and thousands and millions upon millions and millions of ancestors that you have that are at your beck and call when you need something. Imagine you connecting to that. Power. The next thing, you have to be able to appreciate your DNA. Whew. I'm telling you, we treat our bodies as though that we are the governors of our own bodies. African spirituality will tell you that you can't do certain things to your body because it doesn't belong to you. God gives you free will, but your body and your mind and your is not supposed to belong to you. You surrender it to the higher power. It belongs to the Creator, Mother, God, Father, God. I am yours. Work through me. I surrender my mind, my body, my spirit to you. Know and appreciate your DNA. When you understand accessing black power, you are a manifestation of divine thought. There is no people that came before you. The Creator crafted you above all other people on this planet. There are things in your DNA is data in your DNA. I should be African Inspirational Sunday. Man, I broke that one down. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that because it came all out of the dome. But you're a manifestation of divine thought. You are a direct descendant from the Creator itself. All else came out of you, humanity. Appreciate your DNA. How you dress, how you walk, how you talk, how you think. Appreciate it. Where ooh, I got this ready. To the point where you sit back and you study you. The power of you. The history of you. Beyond slavery. Understand what we brought to the planet. Appreciate your DNA. The atoms, smallest thing, molecules vibrate and generate, and you are built with God power. In your DNA strand, it's a code. And let's break this down, appreciate your DNA. Every second your code changes. You know how I know? Because a follicle of hair grows. How does that follicle of hair know to grow? It's a code being programmed as you walk, as you talk, as you live, as you sleep. It's a constant change as you grow. It's a constant code being unleashed. It's hundreds and hundreds. God has software built in you, and our DNA structure has more divine code than any other people. Appreciate who you are. Appreciate who you see. Everybody it has this in the divinity in them. And so see other individuals the way you want to see yourself or be seen. You want to access this 22 power, the double proportion. You got to tap into you. Now you have people who function lopsided. I got more spirit than I have mind and body. I got more body than I have more spirit. You know, I got more mind than I got body and spirit. But that mind-body integration taps deeper into your DNA of who you are. You got to appreciate this journey. You'll eat different. You'll drink different. You'll listen to different things at different times. You know, I know for me, and this real talk, I got to learn to sleep. I got to appreciate the DNA. I got to learn to sleep because God pushes me so hard to produce. I can't tell him no. And so I'm already always ready to produce. But he also says when it's time to sleep, I need you to relax. I need you to I said I feel spent. I need you to prepare to give more. Appreciate your DNA. And you have to study your own genotype. We give so much on white history, years and years of European history. How much do you know about you? Hence the African history class. How much do you know about the spirit of the people that created the history. African spirituality class. Appreciate your DNA. Let me get it right. Study you. Why? Because we are the manifestation of divine thought. Melanin is a harmonizing agent. Everything about the universe is in vibration that has a frequency, 1.618. And when we vibrate at that higher frequency, we're utilizing the fullness of our DNA, the fullness of our being, to tap into that spiritual essence that we are. Why? Because this is how we were created. And so the 22nd year gives you power. But today, if you can do these things before, just loving you and everything about you, and not only it's about you, but seeing it in everybody that looks like you, you can access greater power. You'll be walking into your purpose because you'll hear it, you'll feel it, you'll see it, you'll smell it, you'll taste it. And there's nothing like tasting the success of who God called you to be. Now that's different than just success, because I will argue with black folks from the hill. Just because you accomplish this don't mean you know what success is. That's success according to who you are in this European environment. Real success is liberation building. What you build that you can leave behind that another generation can stand on. We are all walking ministries, anointed to give something to this world. It is how we are crafted. But we have to get into the beauty of who we are, appreciating your DNA. And that means loving everyone that looks like you. That's why in the Bible it says, love your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Surrender it all and leave nothing left, because everything is God. Everything is God. And give him the praise for all things. They said Africans only know how to praise in African spirituality. It's praise of God. Everything is an honor, even the naming of their children. Ajay the African, Ajay Akono Tehemba Tulanagwe, prophet or messenger from God. It is my turn to stand as a nation because God is with us. That's my name. How can I not be that? I am the African, but so are you. When you surrender, when you communicate with your ancestors, you spend time listening for your answers and getting your visions, and you act upon those visions and those answers that you get, and appreciating your DNA in everybody. Because once you can love you, you will be able to look at white folks and be like, yeah, that's my child. You know more than my genetic offspring gone wrong. Now, when you can function on that note, you walk into a sense of royalty in humankind. Let me say that and give you a visual so you get it. When you realize that you can appreciate your DNA, you walk into a royalty that everybody else isn't your offspring, and that has gone wrong. And so it is up to you as the parent race, the parent spiritual entity of humanity, to get back to that point. God said, I want you to prove it to yourself. Oh, what a revelation. You're going to go through so much when you don't serve me the way you're supposed to. I'm going to show you how to prove your greatness to yourself. I don't have to prove it to you. I need you to, because you'll live and exist in the knowing of who you are to God. You're not a king and queen to each other. No, you're a king and queen to the Creator. Let's get that right. And when you can see that in everybody, inside each other, you'll be accessing black power. You'll be tapping into things that you can speak. You can speak a word. That's why I said the power of life and death is in the tongue. Because when we are tuned into that black power that is in us and all around us, our words are magic. Our sounds are magic. Our thoughts are magic. It's all power. So allow yourself to sit in silence and see that. 2:22:22. Take your time and get it right. And be. So next month we won't have 2:22:22. You'll have 3:22:22. So we'll look up the number 3 and see what the number 3 means. But I was waiting for this day because I said I'm gonna tap into more. I fasted all day. I had some chips because of nightfall before we went on live. All this energy in the fast, nothing but berries and juices. Powers how you eat. When you appreciate your DNA, you're gonna respect what goes in your mouth. People don't get it. I'm in the process of accessing black power. What did you eat today? What did you think today? What did you listen to today? Will determine how much power you generated, because it shows how not you're focused on connecting to today. Yeah, I said I'm gonna stay in God until midnight, and this day changes, so we got more time. And so I'm smiling because I'm loving this experience when I see that picture, because in that picture I see myself accessing black power. I see me asking others to be here with me. I don't see one being. I see the multitude of black people when I see that one image. And I'm it. You're it. Because you and I are unified. There's no disconnection from me to you. You're my brother. You're my sister. We are the parent race. I respect the DNA that's in you because it's so powerful. The way I ask you to respect it in me. And if I am spent, I ask you to pour into me the way you know that I need, because of help me carry on this journey. The same way when you're spent, I pour into you. It takes a lot to pour into me, because it takes a lot for me to surrender that to somebody, because I need you to take care of it, because I believe in my DNA. I believe in who I am in the Creator. I appreciate it. I spend time listening, communicating, producing black power. And if you can do that, we can do this. The rise of the African will happen. World of Akiba Land seeks to be that experience. Pow. Seeks to be that experience where we are bringing black people, black youth together under one umbrella for the sake of creating a spiritual experience, a physical experience, a financial experience. I mean, an interaction where we rise up to be witness, to have everybody else bear witness to who we are as a people. One family, one mind, one body, one spirit, one love. This is it. I love it. I love living for this. I could do this all day, every day if I had the opportunity to. Let us continue doing who we are and what we be. 9 o'clock. I'll see you later. African Rise. Peace.